we have somebody very interesting here. Today I have Alan Timothy on the show from Bubo AI. A very interesting concept that they're working on. I'm not going to say much actually because I want to let Alan reveal what they're working on, but definitely we're looking here at pricing optimization through AI, so to increase the margin on products being sold. So he's the CEO of the team, and so happy to have you on the show, Alan. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Very good. So maybe just we dive into the product a little bit in your own words. What is it all about that you guys are doing?
So in wholesale and distribution businesses, which are our primary market, generally they operate at low margins. So, and I've come out of a wholesale and distribution business where I tried various pricing tools and none of them worked. And they didn't work because of the large number of customers and products that we had. Suddenly you're into combinations that go into millions and billions. So Excel can't do it and traditional tools can't do it. So I then started to think about, could we use the power of AI and the cloud in order to unpick these billions of combinations to calculate the optimal price the customer will pay on any given day for any given product. And lo and behold, that if you do it right, you can typically uplift a wholesale and distributor, something like builders merchants, electrical wholesaler, food services. We can add between 3 and 5% to their gross margin.
Very interesting. That sounds a little bit like a no-brainer to do for the wholesaling industry.
It is a no-brainer, but when you've come from a tradition which is stable and very traditional, yep, and not renowned for breaking eggs at the forefront of technology, partly driven by the fact they're on low margins, so they don't have a lot of money to spare in investment. They have not been thinking or have been exposed to new ways of doing things.
Yep. Yeah, we were going to dive into that today because it's definitely a very interesting topic. Maybe before we go into more depth on that, if you could tell me a little bit about, the company, maybe something interesting about the company, maybe, how many clients you're operating with, or the website visitors, the amount, or a price that you've won, something, that can help people a little bit to understand the company a bit better.
So let's start with our name and our logo. So Bubo is the Latin for the great owl. Mm-hmm. So Bubo is also the name of the owl that carried the messengers from Zeus to the underworld in Greek mythology.
Very deep.
So you could argue that we are carrying the messages to the underworld of pricing. But so the business is new. We started in May this year. Mm-hmm. We have got 5 customers, mm-hmm, so we're off to a good start. Mm-hmm. And we have been accepted onto the Creative Destructive Labs on their AI program run out of Oxford University. Mm-hmm. We're on the Vienna 2020 Startup Program. Mm-hmm. And we are finalists in 3 AI awards from Computer Magazine in the UK.
Awesome. So a lot of recognition already for what you guys are doing sort of in the industry and the startup world.
Yep.
Very cool. And could you describe the clients? Obviously, you're so on that first batch of clients at the moment, but you obviously know also the industry very well. What types of wholesaling, is there certain industries or niches, or where do you find the product, to get traction first?
So where we thought we get it is not necessarily where we're getting it. So the easiest way of describing it is businesses that have complexity. Complexity as in a large number of customers, more than 5,000, product SKUs, more than 10,000. Mm-hmm. So things that you can't fit into an Excel spreadsheet. So if I look at the range of the clients, you've got the more classical things like builders merchants, electrical merchants, food services, packaging. We have a Colombian lingerie business. Mm-hmm. Who are selling to multiple smaller shops and distributors. We have a national, somebody with the I'll describe it without giving it away, the franchise for bottling a well-known drink. Mm-hmm. And distributing it in a South American country. So their problem is the branded product that they distribute is fine, but they're competing on bottled water, bottled other products, where it's a highly competitive game and the pricing is very dynamic and they can't keep up with the pricing using Excel and their current tools. So whilst they're not classically what we would have gone after, the complexity of their distribution channel means that we're helping them unpick the problem.
Very good, very good. That gives definitely an idea. And how? Sorry, didn't want to cut you short there. You wanted to add something?
No, so you were right with one of the questions you raised earlier. Is it's a no-brainer, but on the other hand, we've got people who are very nervous and very traditional. So the way we start our engagement is doing a free data discovery.
Yep.
So give me your data, and I'll tell you how much money you are leaving on the table.
That's actually an interesting approach. Maybe you can share a little bit more about this, because obviously that in itself is already a step where you have to maybe do a little bit of, convincing and trust building. Like, how does that work?
It is less of a hurdle to overcome because we need 10 data points.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually need the customer name within that. We just need the customer number. So it's entirely a GDPR neutral data set.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 10 pieces of data spread across obviously 12 months worth of data. So it's a relatively easy thing for anybody to get from an ERP system. There are no GDPR issues. We don't know who the customers are. We don't know their addresses. So it's relatively secure that we can't do anything with it. So that's the easiest way to get people to look at how much money they're leaving on the table.
It's interesting. I mean, since we're also working in conversion rate optimization powered through AI, maybe it's a similar dynamic, right? The problem is there in the world, and not everybody has yet discovered actually what is actually the gap that is happening on a day-to-day business.
Yes.
Very interesting. Go ahead.
And it's when you see it, you can start the real conversation.
Yep.
So if I was going to describe the simplest way of envisaging what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going to a builder's merchant to buy building materials, you will care passionately about the cost of the cement and the cost of the sand. And I know from the work we're doing in that sector, they know those product prices to the penny. Mm-hmm. And on the way out, the builder says, "Oh, I'll have 3 shovels." And he doesn't care about the price of the shovels. He knows it's somewhere between £8 and £10. And as long as you're not more than £10, he doesn't actually care.
Yeah.
But classical pricing is done on a discounting band. So spend £5,000, get a 5% discount. So suddenly you're giving people a discount on the product they didn't care about the price of in the first place. Yeah. And that's a double negative for you. He didn't care that you've given him a discount because he didn't care about the product in the first place, and you've just lost money.
Yeah. It's such a fascinating dynamic. So glad to have you on the show. I know you have a limited set of data, but could you tell us a little bit about sort of client acquisition channels? Like, how do people discover Bubo AI, and how do they get started? Like, what would be the main path in the journey to find out about you guys?
Well, so there's the public media side, like this, get your name out, LinkedIn, but ultimately everybody becomes a customer, comes to the website. Because we are unknown generally, so the website is the key thing for people to test your credibility, how well you react with them, do you know who they are, what you're giving away free, what's the information like, down to languages. So we have our website in English and German, because our 2 main markets is Western Europe, so England, Holland, Germany, Austria, Switzerland.
Sehr gut, das finde ich super.
So the fact we're an English company and it's already in German gives us a start in recognizing we have to go to the customer rather than the customer has to come to us.
Yep. I can attest to this. Sitting here in the west side of Germany, there is a lot of businesses that do wholesaling, a lot of materials being very good. Very good. Okay, so you mentioned the website to be key, obviously, for getting the trust and winning the clients. What would you say? Which role does it play actually at the moment for client acquisition? Is that sort of a path where clients come through?
that it's not our main route currently,
Mhm.
but as we go through the startup, which is easier to generate the attraction and the press releases, and we see the website becoming more of a route to get people in
Mhm. Mhm.
as we become more established. And we're starting to do more stuff with LinkedIn, and the whole purpose of the LinkedIn campaigns are to drive people to the website. So our website traffic is relatively small, but the plan is to invest in increasing that, so that it becomes a genuine challenge for new opportunities and new leads.
Very good. If we would go back to the product, right? And for everybody who's listening in, what would you say is sort of the main competitive advantage, like the edge that businesses are getting using your product?
3% increase in gross margin. And for every 1% I can increase your gross margin, according to McKinsey, that's a 10% increase in your net profit. So if I take your gross margin up by 1 percentage point, your net profit will rise by 10%.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe we are in the same boat there, like that people actually feel the difference, the depth of that difference. Once they realize, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Again, if you take the classical McKinsey level research is, if you take the things a chief executive can do, because he's there to create wealth for his shareholders predominantly,
Mhm.
you can take cost out, you can batter your suppliers down, you can resize your organizations, you can increase sales, but increasing your price is twice effective as any other action a chief executive can take.
Mhm. Very interesting. Good. So I would love to switch context a little bit. We talked quite a bit
Yeah.
about the product. We learned sort of, how it is helping. I think the numbers speak for themselves. Um, and what I would love to learn is about you a little bit, building up the company. Maybe you could tell me first, like, what type of content do you consume? Where do you educate yourself in order to develop yourself further?
Uh, McKinsey, HBR, MIT,
Mm-hmm.
and other bits of information is around. So currently, I am interested in developing OKRs.
Mm-hmm.
OKRs is the Google management style, objective key results. Uh, so just finished reading a book on it. So the core ones are your HBR, Harvard Business Review, the McKinsey. I am an avid subscriber. I think they do great stuff. MIT, I am a subscriber. Coupled with other things that grab my attention as to why other people have succeeded. People like Google, people like McKinsey. There's a saying I remember from a management book a long time ago is, to see further, stand on the shoulders of giants.
Very much so. Yeah, I spent actually 4 years within Google myself, so I'm accustomed to
Yeah,
the OKRs. So
yeah.
you can see companies benefiting from bringing that into their management. Very good. Yeah, I was about to ask you actually what was the thing that you're currently studying. So OKRs, it is. What I would love to do now is, since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview, I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions. That's a couple of questions, usually, one sentence questions, one sentence or one word answers. It
Yeah,
usually. Are you ready for those?
yeah.
Awesome. You took it away a little bit. I'm still going to try. What's the last book you read?
It was an OKR book. So,
Very good.
so, so I must admit, I'm a big fan of podcasts.
Mhm.
So when I'm driving, I put the podcast on. Uh, so it was the man who introduced OKRs to Google when they were 4 months old.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my last
Interesting. Very interesting.
podcast audio book.
What's the one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Was for customer acquisition.
Mhm. If there would be no boundaries in technology, and I know you're already playing with the boundaries, obviously, but if there would be no boundaries, what would be one thing that you would wanted to have fixed today for your company?
The ability to understand the sentiment of my customer
Mhm.
in order to help me serve them better. the logic of all the things are compelling, but people still say no because you're then into personal fear. So something that helps me understand their emotional position, their emotional baggage, to better serve them.
Yeah, no, I think there is something very merited to this, because I think if certain metrics are complex to achieve, to improve, and therefore it's not easy to see through how and why this is actually going to be happening. And there is something in that area. If somebody unlocks that, that would be very
Yep.
interesting. Very good. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
The order of things I have to start to work on in the morning.
Hmm.
But being a startup, and there's not many of us, there's an endless list that you're knocking down every day, and new things come on. It is how big that list can go before I fall over.
Okay,
And you
very,
will know that one.
very good. If today would be your first day, right, starting to work on Bubo AI, like what would be one advice that you would already give yourself from the first um, month and year that you've been working on this now?
What would be the advice? Don't be surprised. So I was talking to my co-founder this morning. So this is not my first startup. So I've been down this route before.
Mm-hmm.
It is Marcin, my co-founder's first startup, and the speed of change and what we're doing now and what we thought we would be doing is two entirely different things. And if we thought back at the beginning, we either wouldn't have started or would have done something different. So it's the don't be surprised of the good and the bad that happens to you every day.
Makes a lot of sense. Timothy, I want to really thank you for being part of this show today and giving us an insight into what Bubo AI is up to. I want to give you the last word. If somebody forgets everything that we just discussed today in this interview, what would be one thing that they should remember about Bubo AI?
3% increase in gross margin.
Love it. Thanks a lot for being part of the show.
Thanks a lot.